Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Great to have you along again. It was election day yesterday in South Dakota, and voter turnout was about 17%, just barely, just a hair over 17% of people who went to cast their votes yesterday. And so we'll run down. There's not a lot of results. There Actually, there are a lot of results, but I won't be breaking them all down because a lot of them are county results, and Kello covers a pretty large area. So I will talk about Minnehaha County. So we've got that coming up. The elections yesterday. Hope you voted. I did. I think I was like number 154 when I went to cast my ballot just after 1 p.m. yesterday. So important to get out and vote, especially in those primary elections. We will talk about the president. This is a big question this morning. The president talking about the border, making moves on the border, and the Washington Examiner, I think, asked a great question. Will Biden's border action move voters? Well, I'll put that question to you this morning. We'll talk about it, get your reaction. I welcome your comments, especially on Facebook. This is a question I asked this morning on Facebook. It's a great platform to engage with you. Appreciate all the comments that I get there. So we'll talk about that. The president talking about border security. We'll get Donald Trump's reaction to this. Trump is saying that what Biden is doing is meaningless. So we'll go through that. This is, I think, an interesting story from the Hill where Democrats are trying to get the president to focus more on inflation, that he's got to talk about inflation and so on. And the problem, I think, for Democrats is it's his policies that are causing inflation. And so for a lot of people understand that. So it's much like the border. Anything Joe Biden says about inflation is pretty disingenuous because it's his policies that are causing inflation. So it's the same thing on the border. It's his policies that are causing all of these issues. And now it appears to be certainly just an election year move. Oh, I'm tough on the border. Let's get out there and, increase on the. I'm not buying it. I know many of you are not as well. So we'll talk about that in more detail. Democrats are pushing it. He's got to talk more about inflation. We have Merrick Garland, who is punching back at some of Republican representatives. He made an appearance before a House committee yesterday. They're weighing a contempt charge against Merrick Garland. What do you think of that? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. We'll talk about it over the course of the morning this morning. Fox News has a very interesting story. You find this in both Fox News and the New York Post. They're owned by the same company. That President Biden is showing some pretty serious decline in some of his private meetings with lawmakers. And now he's running for another term. So those are among the big stories. I'll get into those in a little bit more detail coming up. Let me get ready. We'll get things rolling, get underway. Excuse me as I reach for those headphones. Great to have you along this morning.
Officials advise folks to secure loose objects and avoid highway travel if possible, especially in high-profile vehicles. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
Need a temperature, too.
Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Weather brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99.
54 currently in Sioux Falls.
Look for a few widely scattered sprinkles this afternoon, otherwise partly cloudy and turning windy. Our high temperature nearing 80 with a west wind this afternoon.
Okay, here we go, boys and girls.
A little less wind overnight tonight, low at 54, but the wind picks up again tomorrow, 20 to 40 with a high at 76. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
radio station you're listening to now is Callow. Our addresses are AM 1320, FM 105.1, and worldwide at callow.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
Tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
The Biden administration has a fatal attraction to nutty ideas.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
I love the show.
I don't hate going to work anymore.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. It's great to have you along. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Oh, I just got an email. Crack me up. Somebody's watching the stream. It's Patrice. Love the best, she says. I get cold in here, Patrice. It gets cold. Ever since my stroke, I'm constantly cold. Great to have you along this morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. So yesterday, of course, Election Day in South Dakota. South Dakota, one of five states. I think it was 5 states, District of Columbia also, that had primary elections yesterday. And we had about 17% turnout. So statewide voter turnout was 17.09%. According to the South Dakota Secretary of State's office. And I checked that this morning. So we had just a hair over 17% of people who voted yesterday. And a lot of results. I did want to give you the results in Minnehaha County because there was a county commission contest then. And Cole Heisey was the top vote getter with 34%, running for, again, this is Minnehaha County Commission. So Cole Heisey at 34%, followed by Dean Karski at 25%, Roger Russell at 24%, and Dan Kipley at 17%. So pretty interesting. Kettleland TV had a story as on their website this morning, and I was caught by, I don't want to give his name, but he's a voter in Lincoln County, and he was out voting yesterday, and he said, I want the people out there who believe like I do and would vote the way I want them to. And I thought, he's speaking for many. That you want people out there voting, and talking about voting and voter turnout. So what he seems to be saying is that he's hoping that like-minded people would be among those turning out and voting. Kind of interesting. I've had that same thought myself many times. So South Dakota Election Day yesterday, and again, South Dakota was one of 5 states that had primary elections yesterday. The big national story is coming from the president, and he's talking about border security. And I want to get your thoughts on this. In fact, I've already asked a question on Facebook. The Washington Examiner phrased it really well. They've got a piece this morning that asks, will Biden's border action move voters? Now, what's your perception about the border action that President Joe Biden is taking? And so Democrat operatives told the Washington Examiner that this executive action could help Biden flip the script on this issue with moderate voters. No, I'll tell you who it'll flip the script with are completely uninformed voters. That's who this will appeal to. Anybody who's informed knows better. So, no, this will not appeal to moderate voter. I mean, can you be a moderate and still have a basic understanding of what's going on, right? I think we use the word moderate a lot. You may have noticed there's nothing moderate about me on most, when, as we talk about most issues, especially about this issue with the border. So one strategist said Republicans wanted to play politics on the border, and this is where it landed them, talking about what's been going on in Congress. Heading into November without any of the credit for addressing this decades-long problem. So they love to talk about this. The Biden executive order would shut down border access, and we talked about this on the show yesterday. There would be some exceptions, and that's, you got to look at the 7-day rolling average. When it exceeds 2,500 encounters, just drives me crazy. It's nonsense. Folks know it's nonsense. So a lot of the Democrat talking points are just really frustrating. Donald Trump's reacting to this. He slammed this as meaningless. He told Newsmax yesterday. Trump was on Greg Kelly Reports on Newsmax, and Trump said he's poisoning our country. He said, first of all, it's a nothing that he did and allowing massive numbers of people still to come in, and it's just misinformation, disinformation, and just another hit job. And frankly, this should have been done 3.5 years ago. But something meaningful, and again, that's the timing of this, I think, is really, really important. The timing of this, it's all about the election. Here we are, a few months out from the election coming up later this year. So we're months away from the election, and suddenly now Biden wants to be seen as tough on the border. You've got to be kidding me. And Trump said something meaningful like the one that Congress passed, or we wanted Congress to pass, which was basically my things, Trump said, having to do with the stay in Mexico, called Remain in Mexico, catch and release in Mexico, not in the United States. So Donald Trump said, this is a public relations executive order, and it's meaningless. He could stop the millions of people coming into our country with one order and one signature. It's all there for him. I did it, Trump said. We had the safest border in history, I would certainly say in recent history. And now we have the worst border of any country in the history of the world. It's a terrible, terrible thing that's happened to our country. Trump said, and they're coming in from prisons and jails. They're coming in from mental institutions. And you have a lot of terrorists coming into our country, Trump told Newsmax. And it's a terrible thing that he's doing. He's poisoning our country. So Trump has got some pretty harsh reaction to the president's border orders yesterday. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, somebody I greatly admire, he was on Laura Ingram's show on Fox News Channel last night. And as Kennedy was talking about it, he starts out by saying it's sad. Senator John Kennedy has a unique sense of humor. And he deploys it, I think, at times that you'd least expect it. And Senator Kennedy told Laura Ingraham, he said, it's sad, Laura, the highest and best use of the president's time at this point would be selling catheters on late night TV. Wow. And then he said, I mean, it really is sad. We all know someone who's reached that age. We wouldn't even think of giving him or her the toughest job in the world. If the president were my father, I'd take away his car key, he said. So Senator John Kennedy, standing firm, yet retaining his sense of humor. And it's one of the things I really appreciate about Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Washington Examiner has a piece this morning that the president then is frustrating Democrats with this immigration plan. And they're all, in a number of them. So it is special, not just some Democrats, but especially left-wingers, and a number of them are voicing their outrage. There's an X account called Holding Biden Accountable. And they said Biden supporters are openly celebrating how he's going further right than extremist Republicans by bypassing Congress to ban asylum and ramp up deportations. The only difference between this and the MAGA cult-cheering Trump's racist immigration policies is the added hypocrisy. So here you've got people on the left now who are saying the hypocrisy of Joe Biden here is, and it is. I mean, this is what many of us have been claiming about, Joe Biden and his policies. Breitbart's got a piece this morning, and they did a story on this, and then Reality Check, they have Joe took 94 executive actions to dismantle border security, Breitbart says. So the president took 94 executive actions to dismantle the border security. And now, again, I mean, this is where so many of us are watching this and are you kidding? Are you joking? The hypocrisy of that is just absolutely staggering for many of us. There's a very interesting piece at The Hill this morning saying that the president needs to emphasize inflation in order to win support. And the Democrats just don't understand. They don't get it. And I'll explain. Democratic strategist Brad Bannon says, the reality is you can look at any national poll and people feel bad about the economy. That's because they're struggling with inflation and the cost of living. Okay, so understood. I would agree, absolutely. So the president has got to go out there and tell people, I know you're suffering, but we're making progress and we'll continue to make progress if I have a second term. You know who that would convince? Absolutely nobody, other than absolute partisans. And will not convince anybody. This is just, you know what? It's just like one bad idea after another bad idea. It's just an endless parade of ridiculous nonsense. And it's empathy. One says, it's a Democratic strategist, says empathy is one of President Biden's superpowers. But nobody believes it. Nobody believes it when this guy goes out there and, oh, it's so bad. I feel your pain, You have got to be kidding me. It's just absolutely terrible. Also, we had Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of Congress testifying before a House committee, and Republicans are considering a contempt charge against Garland. And the quote from the AG that is getting a lot of press this morning is, "I will not be intimidated." That's what Merrick Garland said to Congress. I will not be intimidated by members of Congress. I think that has become clear, that Merrick Garland would not be intimidated. I think it's probably fair to say that all of these people and I'm not just saying just in the administration, but all of these federal agencies, all of these federal groups, they absolutely feel that they are untouchable. They do. And we see that all too often. Look at what's going on right now with the border. And you got the president's head of, the border who's out there just, first, it wasn't a problem. No, the border is secure. He was out there. This is Mayorkas. Secretary Mayorkas was out there telling us, well, the border is secure. And then it's not, as time went on, you and I are watching the footage of all these people who are running across the border or coming into the country, not being stopped. But the border is secure. These people just think, they will go out there, they will lie, and they are untouchable. It's just absolutely incredible. And Merrick Garland is one of those. So he was mad at Republicans then. He said, because they're peddling conspiracy theories suggesting that a politicized Justice Department is acting on behalf of the Biden administration. And that's just not true. It's just not true. Oh, really? Really? Is that why then they're taking up charges against Donald Trump? And so Garland said, as Attorney General, I will continue to forcefully defend the independence of the Justice Department from improper influence or interference of any kind. And again, it's just, I need a barf bag every time this guy is talking. It's just really difficult to stomach Merrick Garland. And he said, Garland went on to say, I will continue to fiercely protect the integrity of our criminal investigations. Oh, wow. Now, have you not gotten to a point now? There's a story that's trending this morning that I'll share coming up here with you this hour. And the Justice Department coming forward, and forgive me, I forget the details. But they're going after the CEO of a website. Forgive me, the name escapes me for the moment, but we'll talk about it coming up. But when I read that, I saw that this morning. That story is trending. And the Justice Department's out there saying that he's stolen this money. And doesn't the Justice Department have a credibility problem with you? Because it sure does with me. I see those stories now, and I'm like, here comes the Justice Department. And yeah, can they be believed? The president surely can. These Democrat strategists, Democrats in Congress, a good number of them just simply cannot be believed. They're laughable. So as you hear about them, these judicial and, the integrity of these criminal investigations, I would like to believe that. And this is the thing, I think Merrick Garland yesterday, appealing to what you and I would like to believe. We would like to believe that investigations that are being undertaken, especially by the federal Justice Department, have integrity. And that when people are facing charges, they're warranted. There's a reason why people are facing these charges. Do you feel that way? With Merrick Garland at the helm of the Justice Department, do you feel that way? I'm sounding more and more like I'm just, a raving nut. But things have gotten so bad. So Republicans just hammered the Attorney General yesterday And they want audio recordings in particular. They want the audio of President Joe Biden with special counsel Robert Hur. That's what they're really after. They want to hear that audio. Now, they've already released the transcripts. They want to hear the audio. And I would agree. I don't think the audio will show more than just an audio transcript. But the Attorney General said, we have made it clear that we will not provide audio recordings, he said, regarding this. So we'll get into that in more detail over the course of the morning. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. So great to have you along. Whoop, there goes my cup. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Currently, sunshine at 54. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show.
Nights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 13.
Okay, that's the first segment. And I lost my cup.
Brought to you by Tires. See in-store details about how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers.
My spill-proof lid is not entirely spill-proof, but I'm going to grab a couple of paper towels. Excuse me.
Call 605-646-2667 today. Stars, stripes, and respect for our servicemen and women. If you want to display your patriotism, ABN Army Surplus and Tactical Gear invites you to shop their patriotic and military items like flags, hats, and clothing. ABN is family owned and operated and a Purple Heart business 3 blocks south of the Premier Center.
I just remember having so much fun trying to beat all the other kids to the foul ball. Like I had my glove after practice.
Okay.
Tried to talk to the people in the bullpen and try to get the attention of the outfielder coming in the last out. Maybe he would throw me the ball and we would just run the bases afterwards. Just pretending you're one of the players. It was a blast.
Yeah, just really great having those memories as a child and then still living here and then being able to bring our kids to the games. I'm Lizzie.
And I'm Daniel.
And this is our Canary story.
Okay, coming up, we'll run down stories that are trending this morning.
Tickets.sfcanaries.com.
The headlines remind us daily, the world is a dangerous place. The elites in charge say everything's fine. Stop noticing.
So coming up after 7, we'll talk about the president and
4 missed meals away from chaos.
this the border and what's going on in these border steps. I'm guessing you see right through that. I certainly do. And then we will talk about Merrick Garland in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. So if you only watch the YouTube show, we're on KELO in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And again, the stream will end at 7. The show continues for 2 hours beyond that. You can download the Kello app, listen that way, or you can stream it through our website at KELO.com.
Shop MyPatriotSupply.com today. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Partly cloudy skies today. A couple of isolated sprinkles or a shower possible into the early afternoon. Our high around 80, but the big story, the wind picking up this afternoon at 20 to 45 miles per hour. For the overnight, low 54, more wind tomorrow.
In Sioux Falls at 6:29, sunshine in 54. Joe Bowman's in the Kello.com News Center. And among stories that Joe was following this morning, low voter turnout in South Dakota's primary election. Numbers were lower than what Minnehaha and Lincoln County auditors had predicted. So Joe will have details on that. About 17% statewide that turned out to vote yesterday. Also, an investigation continues after a deadly shooting in T. And Senator John Thune and other Republicans in Washington are going after President Biden's executive order on border policy. So Joe Bowman will have details on those stories. And you and I will talk about the president's border policy yesterday, coming up this morning after 7 on Kello. Then we're into Fox News.
Landed in France to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
President Biden will make remarks and participate in other commemorations with European leaders. A day later, the White House says the president will speak at...
Nick sent me an email. You can email me anytime. Greg.belfrage@kelo.com is my email address. Nick said, I think we'd all like to hear these Biden audio recordings and evaluate his ability to think and speak coherently. Plus, I don't have any faith the released transcripts are accurate. Do you? Nick says. No, I understand why you lack trust. Unfortunately, it's very, very hard to trust. I mean, almost anybody in the federal government at this point. So,
Implant and Sedation Dentistry. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
all right. I'm going to grab trending stories here and get those ready for air. I tried to sort these out in a way that makes sense.
Only 17% of registered voters showed up for the polls yesterday. Numbers from Minnehaha County were even worse, with just a shade under 10% turnout. Lincoln County just under 12. This year has seen a concerning trend of low voter engagement. An investigation continues after a deadly shooting in T. Police say the shooting happened just before noon on Monday at the 2200 block of North Carla Avenue. A man was found with a gunshot wound, but did not survive after receiving medical attention. Authorities have identified 59-year-old Timothy Overton as a suspect in an aggravated assault that happened prior to the shooting. Republicans in Washington are going after President Biden's executive order on border policy. Here's Senator John Thune on Capitol Hill.
President Biden should be taking action because he is responsible for this border crisis. Why should he have to take action unilaterally? Because he created this border crisis unilaterally.
Republican lawmakers add that it should not have taken Biden 3.5 years to take action. South Dakota lawmakers are gearing up to examine the state's property tax valuation system. Valuations are on the rise, increasing property taxes. State House Majority Leader Will Mortensen was among the lawmakers pushing for the study.
We've got a summer study this year that's looking at property tax assessments to make sure those are consistent. You know, people have runaway property tax bills. We want to make sure the county is fairly saying what your property is worth.
The study is set to begin in a couple of weeks.
Oh, man.
And a wind advisory is being issued for most of South Dakota today. The National Weather Service says gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour will be possible in the Sioux Falls area, especially north of I-90 in the afternoon. Officials advise folks to secure loose objects and avoid highway travel if possible, especially in high-profile vehicles. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Look for a few widely scattered sprinkles this afternoon, otherwise partly cloudy and turning windy. Our high temperature nearing 80 with a west wind this afternoon at 20 to 40.
Yeah, it was the CFO of Epic Times. That's what I was trying to remember. His name is Bill Gwan, and he's the CFO of Epic Times. He was arrested and charged with, they're saying he was operating a money laundering scheme, or at least participating in it. $67 million worth of funds. I just find myself really having a difficult time believing anything coming out of the federal government right now. And I'd say that's a situation that has changed over the course of the last 5 years. This is a crazy story. A woman who's 74 years old, she was pronounced dead while she was in hospice care. And they discovered at the funeral home she was still alive. Rushed her to the hospital, and she died at the hospital, unfortunately. But seeing that story everywhere this morning.
One source of truth. Imagine reducing your IT costs and cutting the expense of maintaining multiple systems. You see, with SimpliSafe, you can easily improve efficiency by consolidating all of your major business processes. Say goodbye to manual tasks and errors. Join
All right, here we go.
companies already benefiting from NetSuite. And here's some really exciting news. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for just a few more weeks. Now, I don't want you to miss out. Head to netsuite.com/Ken right now. That's netsuite.com/Ken. NetSuite, everything you need, all in one place.
One of the reasons I share trending stories is, a lot of folks are spending a lot of time online. And as you're online, these are the news stories that you're going to be seeing most often. I use a website called Free Spoke, and I highly recommend it. It's a way for you to follow. One of the things I like about Free Spoke is they'll say, okay, here's the headline, this story's trending, and then they'll show numerous sources that you can view that story from. So whether it's on the left or the right, it will show you. Generally, you'll get about nine sources where you can see it's trending. And then you can look, okay, here's CNN, here's Fox News, here's it. If there are certain then outlets that you trust, you can steer toward those. But it's freespoke.com. I highly recommend it. I use it every day, and I use it, personally. I've got their app installed on my phone. Just really handy. There were, when it comes to stories that are trending, we used to pay for a news service that would provide trending stories. And unfortunately, what happened is over time, for those who are looking for news and information driven kind of material, they're worthless, because a lot of the stuff that's trending is coming from social media, and it's not really news. You know what I mean? Sometimes social media becomes news, but oftentimes it's noise. So I tried to sort out the noise and give you stories that I hope you're going to find meaningful. Here we go.
With just one touch, you can keep your finger on the pulse of South Dakota. The app is free at Kello.com.
Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
6:39, sunshine and 54, and you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello. Thanks so much for being here, my friends. I really do appreciate it. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, we had the primary election in a number of states yesterday, and South Dakota, of course, among them. But Navy SEAL Tim Sheehy has won the Republican nomination in a field of 3 candidates. This is in Montana. He will be facing Democratic Senator John Tester then. So Tim Sheehy winning the Republican nomination in Montana. Also yesterday, the son of Senator Bob Menendez, Rob Menendez Jr., also a winner in a hotly contested Democratic primary. Well, those stories are trending this morning. Also, we've got Hunter Biden, of course, who is on trial, and Hunter Biden's wife exploded at a former aide from the Trump White House. They had a confrontation outside the courtroom, and Melissa Cohen Biden just exploded at this guy. It's Garrett Ziegler. And she told him, "You have no right to be here, you Nazi piece of," she said. So she approached him in the hallway, and now Hunter Biden had sued Ziegler, claiming he violated state and federal laws by publishing thousands of leaked emails, photos, and videos from his laptop online. The infamous laptop from hell. So there have been a number of stories, and a lot of them are dated. This is one of the issues. As you watch stories that are trending, they become a little bit dated. That's the case this morning with people in Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, South Dakota, all went to the polls yesterday. It was 5 states. And Washington, D.C. also going to the polls. So here in South Dakota, Donald Trump running uncontested in the South Dakota primary. Iowa voters have already selected Biden and Trump as their 2024 nominees. Also, President Joe Biden said that Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu could be prolonging the war in Gaza for his own political reasons. This was from an interview from Time magazine that was released yesterday. And the president was asked, some in Israel have suggested that Netanyahu is prolonging the war for his own political self-preservation. Do you believe that? The president was asked. And he responded, I'm not going to comment on that. There is every reason for people to draw that conclusion. I would cite that as before the war began, the blowback he was getting from the Israeli military for wanting to change the change the court. This is what he said. And so it's an internal domestic debate that seems to have no consequence. And whether he would change his position or not, it's hard to say, but it has not been helpful. Can somebody decrypt what the hell he was just saying? As this is one of the reasons why I just absolutely do not believe he could ever debate Donald Trump. He can't even answer a question without stopping, going back, rephrasing it. In that brief little answer that he gave there, he stopped numerous times, having to back up. Also, Representative Maxine Waters is blasting supporters of Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump, you see, who's threatening the future of the country, according to Maxine Waters. And her appearance on MSNBC, believe it or not, is trending. Waters said, I'm worried that he's so divisive and that he's talking about retribution and they're talking about revenge. No, they're not. No, they're not. And I think that's dangerous. He's even mentioned the Civil War at one point, talked about there will be bloodshed. Oh, wow. Speaking of Donald Trump, he is appealing to remove the prosecutor in his Georgia case. This is the election racketeering case that has been scheduled for October 4th. And that suggests then that it's very unlikely that the case would be tried before the election. And the judge had, it's Fannie Willis we're talking about, getting Fannie Willis, who is the Fulton County District Attorney, removed from the case. And the judge in that case had rebuked Willis for a tremendous lapse in judgment. But then regarding that case with Nathan Wade, but then he went on to say, well, she could stay on the case if Nathan Wade withdrew, which he did. So now she remains on the case. And Trump, of course, is still trying to get her removed. This is an incredible story. An 83-year-old woman was gored by a bison at Yellowstone National Park. She was seriously injured. So she's from, and at 83 years old, an encounter of that kind with a bison, not good. So she was at a trail at Yellowstone Lake on Saturday when the bison lifted her about a foot off the ground with its horns, according to park officials. So she was very seriously hurt, taken to a medical clinic in the park, and then flown to the hospital. And there's no other word at this point about her condition. So, yeah, in any, especially at the age of 83, but in any contest with a bison, you will lose. I'm just absolutely amazed that, and I don't know what happened here in this case. I don't want to be critical of this 83-year-old woman, more hoping for her recovery. But yeah, you just don't want to get close to bison. AT&T said last night they have resolved an issue that was preventing AT&T customers from completing calls to non-AT&T customers. So they confirmed yesterday there was a nationwide issue and folks couldn't complete their calls. And so they resolved it as of last evening. U.S. job openings sank in April to the lowest level in more than 3 years. And experts say that is a sign that the labor market is cooling off as the economy slows. So the Labor Department saying yesterday there were 8.1 million job openings in April. That's a decrease. And it's the lowest level in 3 years that we have seen that. Tucupita Marcano has been permanently banned from Major League Baseball. Story yesterday that was trending was that Marcano had been placing bets on baseball, including wagers on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates when he was with the team last year. So now he has received a lifetime ban for betting on baseball. This is an incredible story from Nebraska. A 74-year-old woman who was believed to have died. She was in hospice care, and they said she had died. So they transported her to the funeral home where they found, no, she's not. She was not dead. And authorities responded to the funeral home after an employee noticed the woman was breathing, called 911, and the woman was taken to the hospital and ultimately then, sadly, died there. So she died. This happened on Monday. She died at the hospital Monday afternoon. Her family has been notified, and authorities said, I can't imagine what her family has went through, and we are really, really sorry for them to have to, go through that. It's a really incredible or unfortunate situation. Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences is going to stop requiring diversity statements. So they will no longer require diversity statements for the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. Instead of requiring a DEI statement, applicants will be asked to send a service statement. I think the statement will explain their efforts to strengthen academic communities, their department, so on, professional societies, and they'll be looking at that rather than any kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. The Wisconsin Attorney General has filed charges against three allies of Donald Trump's in relation to the 2020 alternate electors scheme. The chief financial officer of the Epoch Times was arrested for involvement in a money laundering scheme, the Department of Justice said. So according to a release on Monday, Bill Guan was charged with participating in a money laundering scheme involving at least $67 million in illegally obtained funds, according to the news release. So the indictment was unsealed by the Southern District of New York. The Epoch Times is one of those. He's the chief financial officer. One of those websites I'm on occasionally, the Epoch Times. Also, this a hot air balloon crash coming from in Indiana on Sunday night. So 3 people seriously injured. Their hot air balloon struck power lines and then caught fire before crashing into a field in Indiana, authorities say. This happened around 7 p.m. local time, Sunday evening. And police say, it struck those power lines. So footage of the hot air balloon captured in flight appeared to show, you can see it hitting a power line, causing a spark. So first responders located the aircraft in a field with a basket still attached, 3 people inside. And the fire department said there was evidence on the passenger basket that electrical current passed from the power lines to the basket and injured the 3 people in the basket. So they brought in medical helicopters due to the severe extent of the burn injuries, and they were transported by air to Chicago area hospitals. And so there are investigations underway to determine exactly what happened. And then finally, the first heat wave of the season has arrived earlier than usual across much of the U.S. Southwest. And so temperatures are likely to top 110 degrees in some areas by tomorrow. By this afternoon, and now again, this is the U.S. Southwest, so we're talking about Southeast California, Central Arizona, and forecasters say that area will easily see their hottest weather since last September, says the National Weather Service. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Bell's News Gallery. About 5 minutes before 7, partly cloudy and 54. Great to have you along this morning. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
The world
outer space, and beyond. If there's something fascinating, we're talking about it. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Hey, Brock, did you learn about all the new products here at CNR Supply?
Need to give myself a little bit more time here.
Worried about what? When you learn new stuff like the MIC cone, the Raven direct steer, and the Banjo M250 pump, you have to forget the old stuff to make room for the new stuff in your brain. The human head can only hold so much. Principal?
All right. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to continue to listen to the show, please, you can stream the remainder of the program from KELO.com. You can download the free Kello app to your phone. You can listen right on your phone. I listen that way all the time whenever I'm out of the office. I'm listening to Kello via my phone if I'm not in my car. So it's just and it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Thank you so much for being here. Very much appreciate it. Take care until tomorrow, and may God bless.